Good evening, everybody. Really excited to have you here today. This is Cody Hunanian, the Executive Director of the Student Debt Crisis Center. We just kicked off the workshop starting at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, and I see folks are trickling in as we speak. So I'm going to give it a moment before we get started. Before we do, though, I want to just go over some quick housekeeping. We are doing a student loan help clinic, which has kind of been a core piece of our education workshops, but this time we're doing a focus on Parent Plus loans. So there's gonna be a lot of information that is applicable to all borrowers, and we're gonna spend some time just focus, answer as many questions as possible as well. So use the Q&A box in the toolbar on Zoom to submit your question. We'll, with our team, respond back either via message, or we will take a pause at the end of the workshop and address some of these questions out loud so that everyone can hear them. So with that, I see we have over 100 people on today, which is fantastic for an evening workshop. I'm going to pass it on to Natalia Abrams, the President, Student Debt Crisis Center, to kick us off.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining our Parent and Student Loan Help Clinic. We've heard from so many of you that you want us to talk more about Parent Plus loans, and so this is for you and a really good education for everyone who has a student loan. So today, we're going to discuss Parent Plus loans, address recent updates for all student loans, available repayment plans, and upcoming changes. As Cody said, we are going to have an extended Q&A, and please ask your questions in the question box. And then always a disclaimer, we are not financial counselors nor attorneys, but we are advocates that are here to help and want to help you and have been working in this space for, collectively for well over a decade. So today we will cover pandemic relief for federal student loans and what the extension means, the one-time account adjustments that are occurring this year that will impact or could impact your income-driven repayments or public service loan forgiveness credits, and the new income-driven repayment plan that has been proposed by President Biden. Just another disclaimer for this, when we, for those of you that feel that we are including direct Parent Plus loans, or we'll let you know when Parent Plus loans are excluded from a program. So we're going to try to be really conscious that this is a Parent Plus or a parent loan workshop, but just often we do use those words interchangeably. So just to recap for folks that may not know, this is Parent Plus loans are included in President Biden's plan to cancel student debt. The quick refresher on the plan that Biden proposed and enacted last August and September, but then this was there was an injunction in the courts, and now we're going to the Supreme Court on February 28th for oral arguments. But what we want to show you, so parents were absolutely, if the plan does, pass through the Supreme Court and resume, parents with federal student loans may receive up to $10,000 in debt cancellation if you make under $125,000 a year. And for married borrowers, the combined income limit is $250,000. Borrowers who received a Pell Grant as a college student. And then although this is currently being blocked, we just wanted you to know that Parent Plus loans. In addition, Parent Plus loans have been included, or a majority of them have been included with the payment pause. Currently, most federal student loans, except for a small group of older FFEL or federal family education loans, have been excluded, but most loans have been included. Federal loans are on pause until June 30th, or until there is a decision within legal matters, which is now a decision at the Supreme Court. Once we get a decision, and that will be sometime in June or early July, then 60 days after that date, payments are set to resume. This means that if you have been working towards public service loan forgiveness, or default rehabilitation or income-driven repayment, you are still accumulating credit even though payments are on pause. And then all of this is subject to change during the pending SCOTUS challenges and cases. So with that, I'm going to turn it to you, Cody.
Yeah, so Natalia was absolutely right at the beginning of the conversation. We hear from a ton of borrowers who tell us, hey, I'm a parent. Why are you talking about student loans? There are so many types of student loans, it creates a ton of confusion. Well, to add another layer to all of that, there are also different types of federal student loan programs. So here we ask the question, what are direct parent plus loans? And it's that direct piece that's really important. So a direct parent plus loan are federal loans that parents of dependent undergraduate students can use to help pay for college or trade school. And the reason the direct piece is important is because a direct loan is issued directly from the funds of the US government. So not only is it a federal loan, but the money itself comes from the government. And so we know a lot of borrowers who have older loans can sometimes be confused about older programs that operate a little differently. Now, one of the things we get asked about all the time is if I get a Parent Plus loan for my child's education, am I responsible for that loan or does the student pay for it? And you see here, parent borrowers must pay the loan and the balance cannot be transferred to the child. So when a parent gets a Parent Plus loan, they are taking on a loan with their name on the dotted line that they're responsible for. This can be particularly tricky because I know talking with borrowers over the years, a lot of parents want to help finance their child's education and they'll make agreements with their child to help pay back the Parent Plus loan. But at the end of the day, that loan for that parent, the Parent Plus loan is the parent's responsibility. It's an important detail because it's something that often gets misunderstood or confusing. Let's go to the next slide here. Now, how do you receive a direct Parent Plus loan? Step one, you have to be the biological or adoptive parent, in some cases the step parent, of a dependent undergraduate student who's enrolled at least half-time at an eligible unlike student loans that go to students, Parent Plus loans require that you have, good credit. It operates kind of like a more traditional financial product. And then last, you have to meet the general eligibility requirements for federal student aid, and your child must also meet these requirements. Now, I've got a note here at the bottom: grandparents, unless they have legally adopted the dependent student, and legal guardians are not eligible to receive Parent Plus loans, even if they have had primary responsibility for raising that child, that student. So for those folks, we often see that they'll go and get private student loans in the private loan market to help pay for their dependent grandchild or the person that they're the guardian of their education. Next slide, please. Now, I just mentioned how a Parent Plus loan operates a little more like a traditional financial product than than the other types of federal student loans available to students themselves. And July 1st of 2022, so the last cohort, that interest rate was 6.28%. And there is a loan fee on all direct Parent Plus loans. This fee is the percentage of the loan amount and is applied to each loan dispersed. The percentage varies depending on the loan, when the loan is first dispersed, but for an example, there were loans issued between October 2020 and October 2022, where the loan fee was 4.22%. And we see later, prior to that, the loan fee was 4.236%. So essentially, parents are being charged a fee to access the federal student loan system to help pay for their children's education. Now, that makes a lot of sense in the traditional finance product if you're looking for a mortgage, but when it comes to helping your child pay for education, an extra 4, nearly 5% really makes a huge difference. So those are just some of the technical details. We always want to make sure folks understand the loans that we're talking about. Now I want to pass it on to Lindsay at Savvy. And Lindsay Clark is a great ally of ours who can talk about some of the most recent updates in the federal student loan landscape that could impact parents. So Lindsay, take it away.
Great. Thanks so much, Cody. And it's great to be with you all this evening. So I'm going to talk through something that is going to be happening in July, or it's supposed to begin happening in July of this year, 2023. And they're referring to it as sort of a one-time give credit to borrowers for periods of time where maybe they weren't making payments, so maybe they were in a deferment or forbearance, to essentially help them progress further along towards ultimate forgiveness, whether that be under income-driven repayment or public service loan forgiveness. So this sort of one-time account adjustment is supposed to begin July of this year. And the department will essentially be able to automatically detect certain periods of time in which a borrower should be awarded credit. And so that should all sort of be happening automatically behind the scenes. But we want to sort of give you, a heads up as to sort of, what that could look like and what, how that might be impacting you, especially as a Parent Plus loan borrower, because Parent Plus loans will be eligible to benefit from this one-time account adjustment. So basically, borrowers who have reached 240 or 300 months worth of payments for income-driven repayment forgiveness, or 120 months of public service loan forgiveness, will begin to see their loans forgiven in that spring 2023, July of this year. Now, for borrowers who have commercially held FFEL loans, okay, those loans, or Perkins loans, or health education assistance loans known as HEAL loans, they will need to consolidate those loans by May 1st of this year in order to get the full benefits of this one-time account adjustment. Okay, so it is possible that you could have a FFEL Parent Plus loan. And if that's the case, you would need to consolidate that loan with eligible loan types. Will begin to see their accounts updated with any of these additional qualifying months towards either income-driven repayment, or if you're pursuing public service loan forgiveness, sort of in the summer months. But that process will sort of begin July of 2023. All right, next slide. So I'm going to go into a little bit more detail as to how this is going to work for each of these two programs, both income-driven repayment, and then we'll discuss public service loan forgiveness next. So basically, let's start with income-driven repayment. This account adjustment will include any months in a repayment status. So if you were in an in-school deferment, that won't count. So you need to be in repayment status, regardless of the payments made, the loan type, or the repayment plan will now get credit and count towards the ultimate number needed to achieve forgiveness under income-driven repayment. So if you have 12 or more months of consecutive forbearance, or 36 or more months of cumulative forbearance, okay, you will receive these IDR credits. Months spent in economic hardship or military deferments after the year 2013 will also count. Months spent in any deferment, with the exception of in-school deferment, as I just mentioned, prior to 2013 will count. And any time in repayment on earlier loans prior to a consolidation of those loans into a consolidated loan will count. So I know that this is sort of very much getting into the weeds, and there's a lot of, before, unless they, need to consolidate in order to make their loan type eligible, should be receiving this automatically. But this just sort of lays out what you might expect to receive based on your situation. All right, on the next slide, we're going to talk about one-time PSLF account adjustments and how that would impact someone pursuing public service loan forgiveness. So some of these things are similar to the IDR account adjustment that I just laid out. If you have 12 or more months of consecutive forbearance or 36 or more months of cumulative forbearance, you will receive PSLF credit for those periods of time. Now, this is significant, especially for that program, because normally, in order to receive one of these qualifying payment credits towards the 120 total that you need to achieve forgiveness under that program, you normally need to be making a payment. So now they are going to be giving credit again for those periods where borrowers were not necessarily making a payment. Now, these changes will be applied automatically to all PSLF eligible direct loans, including consolidated and unconsolidated parent plus loans. So that's the important one here. Parent plus loans are now going to be able to benefit from this sort of one-time account look back. Borrowers with commercially or, go back one second. Borrowers with commercially or federally held FFEL loans, those older loan types, who consolidate those loans into a direct consolidation loan by May 1st, before the account adjustment is applied, will also get PSLF credit. So for anyone that needs to consolidate, May 1st is really that deadline to do it in order to benefit from the one-time account adjustment that will begin in July of this year. Okay, moving on to the next slide. So sort of transitioning topics a bit, we wanted to also just make sure everyone was aware of President Biden's new repayment program that was announced recently, has not been implemented yet. So, stay tuned, but so, you're not able to apply for this yet, but we're very excited about what this could mean for so many borrowers as far as lowering monthly payments. So currently, borrowers who are enrolled in an income-driven repayment plan, pay at least 10% of their discretionary income each month. Discretionary income, we'll outline it below here, but basically it's, your household income minus 150% of the federal poverty guideline, but really, you can easily think about this as your adjusted gross income, or AGI. So under the new plan, instead of paying at least 10% of that income, a repayment for undergraduate loans would be set at 5%. So that means across the board, it's going to lower monthly payments. Now, right now, these income-driven repayment plans are based on, like I said, that discretionary income, which is calculated as I just described, household income minus 150% of the federal poverty guideline. This new plan places that threshold at 225% of the federal poverty guideline, which means the amount of income that they're going to look at you having is going to be lower, than what it normally would. So again, that's going to in turn lower the amount that you would pay on an income-driven repayment plan, because these plans work, not based on your debt, but based on your income. The lower your income, the lower amount you're going to pay. So not only would they be taking on an income-driven repayment plan after 20 or 25 years on that plan, depending upon which one you're enrolled in. Now, this new plan would cut down that sort of payment timeline horizon to 10 years for those who have original loan balances of $12,000 or less. And then last but not least, under the revised plan, any interest that is unpaid each month would basically be covered and subsidized by the government. So this leftover interest would not accrue, nor would it be capitalized and tacked onto your principal balance like it currently does. So regardless of how little you might be paying on that plan, and great, because I'm sure many of you can relate to the feeling of having been paying on your loans for years, if not decades, and that balance has not only gone nowhere, it's actually increased, despite the fact that you've been making payments, and that's because of capitalized interest. And I can personally, unfortunately, it's not going to be retroactive on these loans. So any, interest accumulated up to that point will remain, but going forward, it will basically, subsidize that interest so that your balance will not, continue to inflate, going forward. Now, again, just to reiterate, this is just a proposal and is sort of currently under review and in the comment period and is not currently available to borrowers, but we are hopeful that this will come into effect before, or I should say, if and when payments do resume at some point later this year. All right, and I think I'm going to turn it over to
PSLF account adjustments and to the school being closed. If eligibility for the loan was falsely certified through the school or due to identity theft, withdrawal from school, but the school didn't provide a refund required under applicable laws and regulations, as well as the death of the borrower or child for whom the loan was borrowed. And then if there are issues or complaints, we hear this, many times where folks reach out to us and say, what is it that I can do? I have an issue with my loan situation, or there's just something that needs to be resolved. The Department of Education Student Loan Ombudsman can help with that. So they help with resolving discrepancies with loan balances. The Student Loan Ombudsman, Bonnie Luttrell, and the email address is fsaombudsmanoffice@ed.gov. Cody, if you can drop that in the chat, I think that would be really helpful for folks. Again, that's fsaombudsmanoffice@ed.gov. Great. So I've seen in the Q&A, we have a few questions here that we flagged that we're going to be answering. So I encourage folks to continue dropping their questions in the Q&A. And I'm going to ask the first question here. So I'm going to toss it to Cody. Moving or decreasing the interest rates. This person, D, has paid over 10 years, $30,000, has paid $42,000 so far and still owes $10,000. So what will happen now?
Yeah, well, I'm happy to start here. Well, first and foremost, I want to just address the first piece, which is we are still very optimistic about the President's student debt cancellation plan, making it through these unnecessary challenges at the Supreme Court. This is a plan that, according to many of the legal experts, including those at Harvard Law, is absolutely legal and within his legal authority. Now, it's a good question, though, because I know many of us are concerned about what we're up against here. I will say this, if this Supreme Court case takes a turn for the worse, there are actually several avenues for relief. One, we continue to fight for debt cancellation using the other legal authorities that the president has available to him. Two, we continue to fight for debt relief, through legislative means, through advocacy at the local level, through all the methods we have done for years before the movement to pass an executive action really kicked into high gear. And three, the interest piece, I can assure you, is absolutely at the top of the priority list for many advocates that we work for. While debt cancellation broadly is something we all stand for and stand behind, it's not the only topic that we spend our time thinking about and exploring. Many organizations we talk to are thinking the exact same thing. So there's not a bill or something on the table right now, but it's something we take very seriously and would consider as an avenue for future relief.
Awesome. Thank you for that. One question that I think is really important and I think will help a lot of folks who might have a similar question is, Tab asked us, I have a Parent Plus loan. How do I know what type of loan this is?
Yeah, this is a great question. So I would say if you have a Parent Plus loan, the first thing you would want to look for is whether it says FFEL, F-F-E-L plus loan, or whether it says direct Parent Plus loan, because that would indicate whether, and if you took this out, basically from 2010 to present day, there's a, very good chance that that is a direct loan. Anything before 2010, you're going to have a higher chance of it being a FFEL Parent Plus loan. But that will indicate sort of the specific type of Parent Plus loan that it is. And from there, with a FFEL Parent Plus loan, that's going to be a loan that will need to be consolidated in order to benefit from this one-time account adjustment. But if it is a direct one, then it does not need to be consolidated in order to become eligible. But that really will help sort of distinguish, what type of loan it is. So it should tell you that if you go to studentaid.gov, you log in using your federal student aid ID, and you see your dashboard of all federal student loans that you have to your name. It should list out the loan types and the names right there. And like I said, you'll
Thank you. Another question comes from Eric. Eric says, my wife and I have a parent loan that we have been servicing for decades. The two institutions no longer exist. We applied for the forgiveness under Biden, which was accepted, but that is currently tied up in the courts. Question: we have over $19,000 remaining on this parent loan, which will take another decade. Can we ever get out from under this burden?
Yeah, well, one thing I would say for folks that feel like there's no relief available is just a reminder that before we started fighting for an executive action for debt cancellation, there were already existing mechanisms within the federal student loan system to access relief. And one of those has been to consistently enroll in an income-driven repayment plan and to complete that program for 20 or 25 years and have the remaining debt that you have forgiven. That has always existed, and it will continue to exist. And I know for many people, enrolling in an income-driven repayment plan often doesn't help them pay off their debt. This administration has proposed a new income-driven repayment plan that we discussed earlier. And so for some borrowers, enrolling in an income-driven repayment plan won't just mean getting relief. It will mean getting relief sooner than ever before, as soon as this new repayment plan is available. Programs that can help lower your payments now, they can help erase the debt in the long term. And, these programs are being improved upon even as we speak.
And in some of the questions, I'm seeing some folks using ICR and other folks are using IDR. So one question that Steve asked was, is an ICR plan the same as an IDR plan?
Yeah, happy to answer this one. So IDR, or income-driven repayment, is the umbrella term here, okay? Pay as you earn, pay, P-A-Y-E, which is pay as you earn. And then there is IBR, income-based repayment, and ICR, income contingent repayment. So those are sort of the four current primary types of income-driven repayment plans. Now, again, as we mentioned or talked about a little while ago, they're going to be introducing a new type of income-driven repayment plan, to that already existing list. ICR, to specifically answer your question, is a type of IDR, income-driven repayment. Lots of acronyms, I know, but important if you can just think of income-driven as the umbrella term, and there are different types of income-driven repayment plans.
If you want to ask your question.
Veronica, we've opened up your mic. If you want to turn it, there we go. Hello.
Okay, I believe I sent it in a question. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you, Veronica.
Okay, I have a student loan that I don't believe Department of Education has anymore. A private company has taken over, and I was just finding out, can I still apply for the parent loan forgiveness?
Do you, sorry, a question for you. Do you, when you say it was taken over by a private company, are you, did you refinance at any point in time that loan with a private entity or a commercial lender?
I believe so.
Okay. So one of the ways you can tell, when it comes to federal versus private loans is, if you log in, if you go to studentaid.gov and if you tried to log in using that FSA ID, they call it, that's basically what you create when you take out any federal student loan debt. If any existing debt will sort of appear there. If it doesn't appear there, then that's a good indication that it's probably private.
It is private now.
Programs. So there's no way to turn a private loan back into a federal loan. You can basically only, turn a federal loan into a private loan. And so payment plans go, or potentially even refinancing at a lower interest rate or something like that, you'd have to reach out to, or I would recommend reaching out to that commercial lender and directly and seeing what they can offer, because it's going to differ from lender to lender, because there's sort of no sort of federal overarching system, right, controlling all of them. So that would be my best bet, but unfortunately, they're not eligible for any of the forgiveness or federal repayment plans.
Okay, thank you.
Great. We have out loud. So one question I'm seeing here is Lisa asked, if I have been working for a 501c3 for 25 years, but have not applied for PSLF, I didn't think it applied to PLUS loans. Do I need to do that now?
So it depends. Maybe we can ask this back to her or whomever asked this question. Are you still working or are you retired? Because that's going to make a difference in my answer. If you are still employed at a qualifying employer, then absolutely, yes, you can qualify. You would need to consolidate that Parent Plus loan into a direct loan, but then you would be able to get credit for retroactively for those periods of employment and payments made, and also sort of the account adjustment, periods of forbearance or deferment. But it's going to come down to whether or not you are currently employed. Yeah, let us know. But that's sort of the short end of it, or the long and short of it, I should say.
Thanks, Lindsay. I'm going to ask Pam if you could unmute yourself and ask your question out loud.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. I have Parent Plus loans. They're all federal direct Parent Plus loans. And I applied way back in June for the limited time waiver. And then when I found out that they weren't including the past payments on the Parent Plus loans, because it said that with this limited time waiver, it didn't matter what payment plan you were under, but they were going to include the past payments, except for the Parent Plus loans. So now I found out at the end of December that they are including the past payments now. I am still working. I've already got the letter that I was qualified for an employer. I work for a college. I've been paying for 12 years. So now it's in the process of just for the payments, which I know I've made over well over 120. My problem is I have one loan that's still over at, it's one of the first FFLEP, but it's a Parent Plus loan. They said that one wouldn't count because it was not brought over to Mohila. Well, at the time, there was no reason to bring it over because it wasn't gonna do me any benefit because they weren't including the past payments. They make something, since the deadline was October of this, of last year to get your PSLF waiver in, since they made this new thing where the past payments are going to count, are they going to extend like an extended period of time for those people, which I assume are many parents that took out Parent Plus loans for their child, for those loans so we can get them over to Mohila so they'll count? Because I was told that that loan's not going to count, even though I brought it over because I didn't do it before October 2022, which didn't make sense because I'm going to retire in 4 years. So I was informed by everybody who I talked with, it's not going to benefit me because they weren't including the past payments and I'm going to retire. So then I wouldn't have a qualified employer. So I just want to know if there's anything I can do with that one loan to be qualified when it's still a Parent Plus loan and it's a direct Parent Plus loan, but it's just under the FFLEP. And they told me it wouldn't count.
Yeah, this is a great question. And I'm glad you brought this up. So first of all, if you, you might have been given, or I would say bad advice. It depends on where the advice is coming from. But if you had consolidated all of your loans together and they all moved over to Mohila, even if, so under the waiver, right, when the Parent Plus loans, weren't included, if you had consolidated Parent Plus loans with, I'm assuming these other loans are your own loans. They're not Parent Plus loans.
No, they're all for my son, for my child to go to school.
Okay, got it. They're all for your son. Okay. So, what I was going to say was, so then never mind what I was going to say, because basically if you had consolidated Parent Plus loans with other types of loans, like perhaps debt taken out by yourself, that basically would have allowed you, they all would have become eligible loan types, but neither here nor there. You basically, you're going to be able to qualify for PSLF. It sounds like you are at the forgiveness point at this point already, right? You've reached 120 or more credits. What you need to do now is you need to consolidate that FFEL Parent Plus loan with Mohila. And I would actually consolidate it with the other loans as well, consolidate everything together. You can do this at the Department of Ed website, studentaid.gov. There's a consolidation tool in the dropdown where it will pull in all loans that you have. You're going to want to consolidate it, everything together. It will not reset your credit count, or you will not lose credits. In fact, it will only benefit you. That will bring that remaining one loan over to Mohila. All of the loans will be with Mohila. And if you've submitted your PSLF employment certification forms already, what should happen is once that loan gets brought over, once the forms for PSLF have been reviewed, then you should be eligible to have them forgiven. So that's sort of like the one remaining step that you need to do. And then you are basically.
Okay. So yeah, I was given information that since I didn't bring that over before the end of October, it wasn't going to count. And I just found that out. I just called them like 3 or 4 times and I have the people's names. So, so that was wrong. I still can consolidate it over because I had my application in. I just didn't have that loan over there, but I need to consolidate them before May. Is that correct?
Yes. So you need to consolidate that FFEL one before May. Absolutely. And yeah, what happened with this PSLF waiver is they basically they extended it without really extending it, right? So these sort of the impacts of, being able to get credit, for periods of time, before consolidation, right? Things like that, are going to continue. But the new part here is that Parent Plus are now going to consolidate that. And, I would say, please feel free to reach out to the SDCC team, or to us here at Savvy. If, you go through this process and there's friction or resistance from MOHELA, you're having issues. I want to make sure, because you are definitely an eligible candidate, it sounds like, to have this forgiveness, right? Basically right now, you shouldn't have to make another payment.
And
So
how do I reach out to you guys? Is there an email or something, or if I had to?
yeah,
Yeah,
Natalia,
Pam, yeah, Cody, if somebody will share it in the chat.
Oh,
And
okay.
Pam, if you email us at Student Debt Crisis Center, we'll make sure to connect you with Lindsay and Savvy folks. And I think this is a
Okay.
great example as to why we bring Lindsay and the Savvy team on.
Well, and just to let you know, also, I have and this is, I have 2 pages of 23 people that I've spoken with. I keep their names, I keep the time, I date them, and I have been told consistently wrong information from day one. It's like they're all not on the same page. I'll get one answer from one person, another answer, and it's been very frustrating. And I've been so depressed and crying over this, because I feel like I'm never going to get out from under this, and I'm going to retire, and I don't know what I'm going to do if these aren't forgiven. And I faithfully have been paying. I've never missed a payment for 12 years.
wow.
And
Yeah,
with
the
the pandemic, and yeah, it's like,
you absolutely are eligible. And yeah, I want to make sure that you get this forgiveness. So like I said, there's really no question in my mind based on the information that you've shared with us here. So the consolidation is sort of that next step. But we're happy. That consolidation usually takes about a month to sort of fully process and for that loan to move over. But in the meantime, you're going to want to make sure that the employment period is fully certified, right? So that you've submitted that application to MOHELA, and they're reviewing it. That way they can at least be certifying the employment period. And once that loan then moves over, they can award the full credits, and the loans can be forgiven. So that's absolutely sort of the next steps here.
yeah, the loans have already been over there for like, I don't know how many months. And I got my letter stating that I had qualifying loans and I have a qualifying employer. So I'm just waiting for them to get back with the answer on the payments, how many payments. And I've already talked with the manager, and they said that I've paid well over the 120 payments. So I'm just waiting for that confirmation though.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So I would say, we were seeing sometimes that process with MOHELA and PSLF review taking, upwards of 3+ months. So, just it's sort of a hurry up and wait situation, but it's, you're being patient. But I think, that this is definitely sort of the next step that you need to take. And then if, you get any other advice or information and you want to just sort of double check it, please feel free to reach out to us. But I totally hear you. I mean, it's like you get a different answer, depending upon the person that you talk to. So it's just really hard to know, what to do, and you coming on. Of course. And congratulations on getting to the 120. I mean, I'm excited for you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you.
All right, Sabrina, do we have more questions?
I think Sabrina's internet dropped, but we definitely do. So this is Cody jumping back in here. I've been furiously typing away here. Let's see, there's a lot of good ones, and I want to pick some that would connect with as many folks as possible. Patricia and a lot of other folks have been asking questions about the consolidation piece. And the question has been, can I consolidate my student loan if I only have just one student loan? And so I know that makes a lot of sense here because we're talking about consolidation often as a way to combine multiple older loans. But what about those who have an older loan and it's just one?
Yeah, so you can consolidate just one loan. I know it's like sort of the, the term itself, right? Consolidating, you sort of, the thought of bringing multiple things right into one. But the way that, sort of consolidation works as a free federal process by which you are basically, creating a new loan out of an existing loan, whether that be one loan or multiple. And so if you've got just, one loan, it happens to be this older one, you can consolidate that loan into an eligible loan type. So you don't need multiple loans. It's okay if it's, just that one. But by doing that, then you're making that loan type eligible for the programs that you want to qualify for.
This one's never applied for public service loan forgiveness. Is that something that a borrower can do right now, even if they are just finding out about it today? They've been working for a public service job for years, but they're just finding out about it.
Yeah, absolutely. You can 100% do that right now. It is a fully retroactive program. It began October of 2007. So any payment and employment sort of history dating back to October 2007 is basically fair game. So you would just need to submit what's called the PSLF employment certification form for any current or previous employment, qualifying employment that you had. So if you've worked for 4 qualifying employers over the course of that 25 years, you'll need to submit 4, separate PSLF employment certification forms. Those get submitted to Mohila Servicing. That's the servicer that oversees the PSLF program. And like I said, they will review that, likely take a couple of months, but then we'll retroactively award that credit. And the one thing though, is that you need to currently be employed. It is, if you are not employed, you are not able to retroactively benefit from that program. So if you're retired, you're not able to. That was something that with this PSLF limited waiver, they basically for a year-long period allowed anyone who was retired to be able to apply and get the credit. But that is when that October 31st deadline for that waiver passed. That's sort of the one thing that people who, didn't take action, unfortunately, are not going to be able to benefit any longer. So, but otherwise, all of these sort of benefits afforded. But regardless, again, if you are employed, you're able to retroactively get that credit. So I highly encourage you to submit those forms as soon as possible.
We've got an interesting question from Kyle, something that I mentioned in my section during our presentation. But Kyle says, my mom took out Parent Plus loans to put me through college. These loans are under her name, but I pay them myself. Am I eligible for public service loan forgiveness because of my work? Is the Parent Plus loan eligible for public service loan forgiveness if the student, Kyle in this situation, is working for a public service worker?
Yeah, happy to answer this one, Cody. So unfortunately, it's not based on the student at all. The student's actually, it's pretty much irrelevant in when it comes to this loan. It is entirely based on the parent whose loan the name is in. So when it comes to a program like public service loan forgiveness, your parent could qualify if they worked for a qualifying employer. But it's your employment is irrelevant to that. So it is tied to the borrower, and in this case, the borrower is the parent. So it's based on their employment. Same thing goes with income-driven repayment plans. The calculation based on income and things like that is completely tied to the borrower, the parent, and has nothing to do with the student at all. So that's why it really, when Cody really emphasized that these Parent Plus loans are in the name of the parent, it's important to think about, when potentially taking on Parent Plus loans, and having them, but it is based on that parent's information, nothing to do with the student.
Okay, well, I know we are almost at the top of the hour, so I want to go back to some of the folks that had their hand raised. I see next in the queue here was Jose. Jose, do you want to jump in here and ask your question?
Hey, how are you, everyone? Yeah, the question that I had asked, that I had here was, with the new PSLF program, especially with all the changes occurring now with the Biden administration, there's going to be a new income-driven repayment program, which we can apply to the PSLF from what I was reading. But from my understanding, it would only be applicable for those who achieve the bachelor's degree. And with that, it would be at 5% of their yearly salary. The IDR still remains 10% for those who with a graduate degree or higher. So in that case, will that change at all from the Biden administration or no?
Yeah, happy to take a first step, or Cody, go ahead if you wanted to answer.
Well, yeah, one thing I was going to say just about that last piece, is it going to change comment period, meaning there is still the opportunity for this proposal to look different, to be more generous. Advocates have been really putting in the work to try to push this administration to create a plan that is as generous and expansive as possible. So some of the numbers, some of the details, this is what has been proposed, and we have to get it across the finish line to really know what the final details look like. But Lindsay, go ahead and add your point too.
Well, for graduate loans. Now, let's say you had a combination of undergraduate and graduate school loans, right? Well, you could basically apply for this new program, and that would be applied to your undergraduate loans. And then, for any graduate loans that you had, those would be eligible still for the 10%. So you would have essentially different payment amounts, and different plans, based on sort of, the makeup of your loans. And if you consolidated your loans at any point, and let's say consolidated undergrad loans with grad loans, which you can do, what they're going to do is they will look and go back to your, basically the principal loan types. And so they will, and it'll sort of be like a, what's the word I'm looking for? Like
retroactive,
but like a weighted out. So, for example, if you had, X amount in undergraduate loans, you're going to be paying on the new plan, right, at the 5%. So that'll maybe come out to 100. And then on your graduate loans, that'll be at 10. So that's maybe that's at 200. And then, combined, you're looking at 300. So they're going to splice them and go back to look at the, principal loan given, even if you have consolidated. Because right now, if you consolidated, right, like it shows it as maybe just one loan, right? So you're thinking, oh, like, but within that one loan, you're going to have a different breakdown and eligibility of plans. So, yeah, again, as Cody mentioned, this is something that, and SDCC is so critical and so highly involved in trying to help shape the positive future of a lot of this stuff. So, you couldn't be talking to better people about, trying to improve this proposal, to possibly include graduate loans. But for right now, it's only for undergrad.
Okay, no, and that's understandable. I get it. I understand. For some time, I have seen it that it was at 10% for some time, the PSLF. So I figured that's probably one of the things that they were looking at to try to, make it more affordable for those who do, who are able to pay back table, that is an option. The other question that I had, and I think Cody already had answered it. I actually spoke with Mohila today because I was trying to get the status of my PSLF loan application, and it shows that they had sent me something in the mail, so I was still waiting for that to come in. But long story short, they said that supposedly the time that we have been in deferment because of COVID-19 and so forth, and because of this pause that we are now experiencing from January till August 31st of 2023, these months will count as payments towards the 120 total payments that are needed to suffice the 10-year plan under the PSLF.
Yes, that's absolutely true. And in fact, it's not just since January, it's since March of 2020 when the payment pause went into effect under the CARES Act. So from March of 2020, through what could ultimately, looks like it will be September at least, of this year, 2023, that's 40 plus months of payment pause, and which equates to 40 plus essentially free PSLF credits towards the 120, like you said, so long as you've been working forgiveness, right, under that program, under the last couple of years.
Actually, yeah, I did the
be,
math, and it was 6.5 years that I would have left to pay.
Exactly. So, yeah, it's a huge deal. So yes, absolutely. And anyone, again, like I said, who's
okay. And I have one final question, and I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm not sure if you're finishing. I'm sorry, you cut out.
No, you're good. I want to.
All right. So the one question that I had was, I'm a kind of, believe it or not, I'm actually debating whether to actually study again and go back to school. If I wanted to, let's say, take out another loan and go to school to become a nurse, for example, right? And I am on this track where I do work in the public service. And as long as I'm working in the public service while I'm studying, will these payments, let's say, do they defer that time frame while I'm in school, or can I still make those payments while I am studying as well?
So you can do both. You can go on to what's called an in-school deferment, right? Which is basically, when you have existing loan debt and you go back to school, they allow you to enter into that so that you don't have to pay your student loans during that time. However, if you go into an in-school deferment status, you will not be able to accumulate qualifying PSLF credits during that time. Your loans need to remain in a repayment status in order to get those credits. So to answer your question, if you're going to be working full-time for a qualifying employer while going back to school, and you want to continue to, accumulate credits towards that 120, you're going to want to make sure that you don't go into an in-school deferment status and continue to be on an income-driven plan and make those payments if you want to continue accumulating credits towards the 120.
Perfect. And that's all while still obtaining another federal student loan to pay for example, my nursing track.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Fantastic. Okay. That definitely sums up my my worry. That was kind of the reason why I didn't want to continue studying, was because, the amount of debt that's being, I guess put together here, and it's, I was afraid of going back to school and not being accepted for it, basically.
Totally. Yeah. No, you should be.
Yeah, we hear that.
I'm pretty sure you guys hear that a lot.
Like,
a lot of people are afraid of going back to school because they feel that it's not going to be, it's not going to be an option that they are able to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And so best of luck with that, and definitely reach out if you have more questions in the future. I know we are at the hour right now, and we've got to jump. I just want to remind folks, we want to answer as many questions as possible. I see Sabrina put in the chat our email address. You can reach out to our team. If we didn't get to your, I'm sure we'll have a new workshop on the books very soon. With that, I just want to thank everyone, and thank you, Lindsay, for joining us and sharing your expertise. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks to you guys, and look forward to our next one.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Have a great